Okay, we're back with the Gates to Love and War. I just read chapter 3, and now we're going to hear John's side of the story here. This is chapter 4, Convoy to Baghdad. Okay, this is John's story. I crawled into a well-made rack after starting a warm fire in the nearby wood stove. This ranch with its rain and views had rekindled me. The temperature had dropped enough to send me back inside the bunkhouse after I spent some time settling down the horses again. Lightning sounded as if it was over my head with each bright flash, and with it an instant snap. Jade had said that a storm under a tin roof could be quite deafening. I was wondering if she was ever wrong. It was definitely deafening. Lying there with only the light from the wood stove glowing, I could see ghostly shadows dancing across the old cellar walls of the bunkhouse. The sound of the rain seemed amplified by the size of the room. It reminded me of when I was a child and how my brother Rob and I used to play hide-and-go-seek in the barn. We stayed out there for hours listening to it rain and chatting about places we would go and see someday. He enlisted in the Army and became a machinist. But just 2 years after he enlisted, a shop accident killed him. One of the lathes threw the metal rod he was working on. The loss of my brother had been my first hard burden to bear. Deciding at a young age that I would follow my older brother's example by joining the Army had forced me to work hard and stay focused on college rather than fun, as Rob had done. Traveling with the military to several countries was the time when I met and married my wife. Now I can look back and say it was not exactly for love that I married her, but I soon learned to love her. I was still young and not thinking about anyone's future then. Later on, I found myself with 2 amazing children. My family was growing, and I was proud. I was certainly happy then, and it was mostly good times. It would not be long after my family moved back home that I served my first tour of duty to Bosnia. Soon after my deployment, however, my wife found a new lover and left me. She took the children and left without a trace. I tried to find her, but what can you do when you're thousands of miles from home? When I did get back home, it was like looking through an ambiguous glass, all muddled up, and nothing was as it was before I left. Someone else had taken my place and was happily raising my children. I fought to stay in their lives, but then the New York Twin Towers fell to the Islamic extremists. Then I heard the sound of the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? Here I am," I said. "Send me." Isaiah 6:8. I realized then that it was in my heart to go back to the Middle East, to fight another battle for U.S. justice and to fight for the freedom of others far too weak to fight, a bully and his cohorts alone. Others like the new man who was raising my children. I knew that the children needed a stable father, one that stayed home on the weekends playing football and dressing Barbie for a date with Ken. Her new husband, well, he was that man. A man with a 9-to-5 job and time to play golf on the weekends or go to the park for a canoe ride. I never went back to court, but I wrote many letters to the children. Soon they ceased writing me back. I was beyond devastated. I was angry at life and tired of trying. Therefore I packed my rucksack and I left for the desert sands of Iraq. For the record, I would not have missed it for the world. My children are still that, my children. Even if our paths never cross again, I would not trade a single minute with them for anything life could offer me now. They say that all good things must end, and as we all change. If I could do it all again, well, I know the answer would be yes, I would. A man knows early on in life what he has to do. Mine was to protect and serve my country. It was upon my heart at a very young age. I was born to fight for freedom. I served in Bosnia and then the sandy Dust Bowl of Kuwait for a few months. Then I went on to serve in Iraq for 3 more tours of duty. 3 tours of duty that I am sure will haunt me for the rest of my life. Knocking on doors in the middle of the night, arresting radicals and financiers, helping the terrorists and their evil causes. Roaming the city streets for most of the days and nights, searching bridges and roadsides as we pushed forward to the next mission at hand. We got lucky some days and arrested known terrorists. Other days, we were unlucky and lost good friends. Some days we checked for IEDs along the roadside berms to help the convoys get through to the city. Slowly we moved from here to there, daily capturing the enemy or being fired upon by those who would see us fail. See the Iraqis' newly established government collapse. The Iraqis were coming into modern world democracy, and we had to deal with the fanatics that would try to stop this from happening. We just wanted the innocent, peace-loving people there to be able to walk down the street without fear, to be able to cast a vote and not get their families murdered for doing so. The cities, despite what most people thought back home, were rather cosmopolitan, and the people were extremely friendly and happy to have us there. I asked an old Iraqi once why we should leave Iraq. He said to me, "You don't leave here. You must stay. You must stay and protect us while we learn to live free and fend for ourselves again. You must stay until fear is gone and we can keep out the wrongdoers that loom amongst us today. No, you must not leave here." I asked him how long he thought we should stay in his country to help them. He replied, "No, you cannot go home until we are a safe nation. About 2 or 3 years, maybe more. We will see then. But now you stay here and keep us moving forward to good days." He then offered me a handshake and cried when I shook his hand and bid him good day. He was still yelling at our backs when we rounded the corner. Bless you, my friends. I knew then while I was in Iraq, and that some truly needed and wanted us to be there. The Iraqi people needed someone to save them and keep them safe until they could become a free nation, free of a leader's heavy boot of tyranny. It would soon be like this throughout the country. People were becoming bolder and actually pointing out to houses where they knew terrorist supporters lived. Another good sign the battle was being won was when people could, without fear, point and say, "He is bad," or "You are looking for that man." We had experienced some crazy stuff in the Middle Eastern conflict, but none would compare to the time we were supporting a convoy to Baghdad. I saw a child holding a piece of trash in his hands, standing with another boy on the roadside. He walked up to a supply truck in front of our Humvee and tossed the trash underneath it. Another boy pressed the button on what looked like an overhead garage door opener and blew the front of the truck off its axles. 2 soldiers died in that explosion, more later, and it killed the other boy as well. A child used to detonate a bomb. Damn the cowards who made them do it. Off and on those same roads for another 2 years, we always feared that blacktop road, that highway that sat on top of true hell. My ticket home finally came when the gunner I was riding in exploded from a preset IED. First was the explosion. It all happened so fast. 1 minute we were riding along at 40 miles per hour when we came to a still-covered bridge, which is why he didn't want to cross that still-covered bridge. Now you know why. He was so upset about it. It was when we cautiously crossed it that I felt a hard, loud movement beneath me. The crashing of the instantaneous thunder made my entire body leap off the bed as its deafening sound bounced off the hollow walls of the bunkhouse. I felt like I was on a ride at a theme park. Only in just seconds, the rise and fall were over, and I looked about the Humvee. He was still in that post-traumatic stress syndrome. He was still in that vision. So the thunder came just when he was dreaming and envisioning that bomb, and he was in that state again. I spied my buddies, one lying on top of the hood and the other on the steering wheel, both his legs severed. Another was taking his last breath as I called out his name. His lungs full of blood, he was choking. There would be no answer, just a gesture. His right hand giving me thumbs up. His okay to let God have his soul. His okay for me to live on without him, to fight another day. After that, there was total silence. It was then in that instant I knew I would live. I had been given the chance to live life with a new outlook, to fix the mistakes of my past, to find love and hope again. I promised God in those bewildered moments that I would strive to value my second chance, a second chance at what seemed like an up to now imperfect life. Looking around me, I found a way to crawl out of a small hole in the seat area and onto the busted pavement. That was when the pain came in my left leg. I looked down and there was blood. I kept moving until I finally pulled myself free through the small opening. I looked around the perimeter to find any other survivors, and that was when I noticed one of the British convoy commanders that had been riding with us in the Humvee had been thrown from the vehicle and was lying still in the sandy berm. I watched as he quickly gained consciousness and crawled back towards me. He was in shock and searching here and there. And that was when I noticed his arm was missing. I observed in a daze as he stood up and staggered towards the Humvee. He began yelling in his strong British accent, "Bloody hell, where's my fucking arm?" I looked around, but I did not see it. Can you imagine? He really actually helped him look for his arm. He got closer to my side of the gunner. I could see a golf ball sized hole in his cheek, and I was sure he had not yet noticed it. With blood pulsing from above his elbow joint, he reached for an arm that was lying on a leather seat. I felt sorry for him in that moment. With the pain in my leg now, I could do nothing but watch him in horror. Quickly, I took an inventory of my own body parts. All was good except for my leg, but I could tell it was definitely broken. I could not see or feel any bones protruding through my skin, and for that I was thankful. Then I heard the commander speak again. "Blast it, it's not mine." He blurted out in anger, "It's not my bloody wedding ring, Ace." So he found an arm in the MV, but it wasn't his hand. He's in shock, he's trying to find his own arm. But he notices it's not his wedding ring, so it's not his arm. He slid down the side of the vehicle with the arm still in his hand, and I was pulling myself up to a sitting position now. And he began to weep, mumbling slang terms under his breath. Did he not see that all were dead but he and I? Did he not care about them? I gained stronger focus on my team over the pain in my thigh. I looked around and saw someone from my team was still missing, a good friend. Managing to get the strap off my weapon, I dragged myself closer to the commander. He was losing consciousness as I started tying off his artery. "Where's the gunner, sir?" I screamed at him, knowing someone else could be hurt and in need of my help too. "I didn't see the chap," he answered, moaning. "I'll go look for him, Ace. Just as soon as you tie the tourniquet onto my blasted arm." I looked at his arm. The tourniquet was on, but he could not feel it there. Just as well, I thought, as I lit him a cigarette from his upper shirt pocket and placed it in his mouth. I watched in further horror as the smoke escaped from the hole in his cheek and he inhaled it. My leg began to throb immensely, and soon I could see the supply vehicle that had been following closely behind us had finished checking the surrounding area for more IEDs and was able to enter the KZ, which is the kill zone, of the explosion. Watching them move a body from the underside of the vehicle's turret that lay just beyond me, I dragged myself in that direction. It was then that I realized what had happened to our gunner. Another different I had trained and served with for over 12 years had not survived the blast, another hard loss for me to bear. Dropping my head, I sought some sort of answer for all these casualties. Others checked the bodies inside the armored vehicle. Then they came to us on the ground sitting nearby the vehicle. I could tell from the continual pounding that the explosion's effects were still raging in my skull, making it hard to focus any longer. All was going fuzzy. "Sergeant," the commander screamed out as they lifted him onto a stretcher. "I'm here, sir," I answered back, not sure from the ringing in my ears that the words actually left my mouth. "Don't bloody fall asleep, Sergeant. Stay awake and stay bloody alive." "No, sir, I won't fall asleep." "Sergeant," he said with a much softer voice, a voice that put a crack in the wall where space and time met. "Yes, sir." "See you at home, soldier." I saluted the British commander. "That will be soon, sir." It was the last time I would see the commander. He died in the helicopter, the CSH. I cried for the second time that day. Somehow he knew. He knew when he said, "See you at home," that it would be the last time he would see me. As for my team, well, that was complete now, only in my memories. It was over for the 5 of us. I would bear the punishment of being the only one to survive the blast. My team was now gone, except for one, a fellow who had only served until injured in Bosnia. I had not seen or heard much from him since. He had supposedly died from his injuries, but a year later our U.S. commander said that there was a mix-up and he was alive. Well, living back home in Montana. At first they told me that if I got lucky enough to survive the 60-minute flight to CSH, I would be fine. Later they told me that I had died on the table once I got there. Why I was alive today I did not know. I still had no answers, but I surely thanked the medics in the hospitals that tended us all. I thank those unsung heroes that trained, instructed, and guided those who saved lives daily in places that only the strongest of the brave could survive. They say time heals all wounds. I do not agree. General Harrison offered me a new position, and eventually my physical wounds healed fairly well. My mind would just take a little longer to heal is all. I spent the last few months home from a German hospital and wandering from place to place, looking for something or someone. I wasn't sure, maybe just a place to crash while I figured it all out. I would know it when I saw it. It had to be close. Crowds were still difficult for me to handle, as I felt out of control in them. I was looking for even the smallest child with a piece of paper or a plastic cup in his or her hands. The idea of visiting a mall or a theater was impossible in my mind. Crossed off my list, I looked for IEDs down every American roadway. I figured it was safer to stay off the main roads. Heck, I found it safer to walk. However, it would still be the bridges, like the one on Jade's ranch. Bridges like these were where my ghost would often return to haunt my mind. I will have to sooner or later learn to cross that bridge, I told myself as I lay staring at the barn ceiling. How else will I get to Booker Ranch? Well, the Booker Ranch, that's where his buddy was, the one that left after Bosnia, the one that got hurt in Bosnia, and he found out he was still alive. So he still had one member of his original team still left. How was I going to tell such a sweet woman that I was afraid of bridges? Bridges under which explosives were easily hidden. Oh, I knew bridges all right. I had panicked earlier after Jade gave me directions to Booker's farm. I panicked when she offered me a ride in her vehicle, which again would entail me crossing that damn steel bridge. If only I could cross that bridge, I would be okay. Maybe. With too many thoughts racing through my mind and the sound of the hard pelting rain on the tin roof, I found it difficult to fall asleep. So I decided it would be best to check on the horses again. And that brings us to chapter 5. Now we know a little bit about her. She's a colonel, and we know about him now. He's a first class sergeant. So, what's happening here now? We got their backgrounds, and we know that they both, are feeling the tug of war at their minds, or they're still feeling it. They both have had their experiences, even though it's not talking about her so much yet, but it will. And now in chapter 5, this is called The Land of Purgatory. And this is actually Jade's story and her military story. And it's pretty good. And then the rest of this is all the travels through Montana and stuff. So stick with it, because as soon as I get through this part, this is where the romance and all the traveling and the other guy comes in. Okay? So remember, this is a mystery. So now they've got to go chasing after their friend. So stay tuned. All right? God love you. God bless.